Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm beyond excited to have here Claire Wild, one of the amazing souls I was really so grateful for to meet last year in Portugal when I was just giving my first speech and was actually scared the shit out of me, and she was just giving me lots of hugs in front. We connected. She visited me then in Berlin. So just a short wrap up about our story here together. And for those of you who don't know her, she is a body-mind therapeutic coach and facilitator. Amazing woman helping others really to create resilience, get out of stress. And yeah, I would love, Claire, for you to just introduce you shortly, share a few words about you, where you came from, and why you are who you are today.
Well, first off, hi, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super thrilled to have this conversation with you today. I share your excitement. And wow, how many hours do we have?
Yes, we are two women and we love to chat. And Claire and myself, we can actually just sit down and talk for hours. But yeah, we will try to keep it so short and sweet and to the point and share everything what is on your heart. I hope that helps.
But to keep it short, not only in my private life, but also in my professional life, I repeatedly witness too many people actually suppressing parts of themselves in order to fit in. So to fit in the box society would put out for them, or the family would put out, or sometimes even fitting in the box they created for them that was no longer serving them. So I was witnessing these people suppressing parts of themselves, and it always leads to stress, eventually anxiety or depression or burnout, and even suicidal thoughts. And I'm not even mentioning all the various chronic ailments, the illnesses. And basically that's really what's driving me right now. I cannot stand no longer to see people literally shutting down themselves. Because what they don't realize, often we see people things, black and white, like I'm okay, I'm depressed. But it's not like that, it's a spectrum. So as soon as we start shutting down a part of ourselves, and it can be, it can be just something we like to do and we don't allow ourselves to do it because we feel ridiculous doing this. And maybe some people are making us feeling ridiculous doing that. As soon as we shut this down, there's a part of life inside of us that shuts down, and we are moving towards what I call, there is life, alive, there is dead, and in between there is alive-ish. And there is a lot of shades in alive-ish.
I love this example. Tell us more about that.
Well, basically that's it. It's a spectrum, and each time we are shutting down something in ourselves, we are moving more down the line of alive-ishness until we feel dead inside. And we all know of people like that who are like, on the paper, on the outside, everything is perfect, but in the inside, it's empty.
Absolutely. And tell us, was there any kind of experience in your past, in your childhood? You're originally, where are you from originally? Let's start maybe there. And was there anything in your childhood what actually just created this intrinsic motivation within you to go exactly into this direction?
So I know exactly why you are asking this question and what you are referring to, and I'm going to answer to that, but maybe in a way you don't expect.
Whatever, it's just it can be one experience. However, I'm gonna tell.
You can understand what I mean. One thing that I experience is I have a very strong and not easy personal history. And based on that, people judge me through the lens of this story. And I'm honest, obviously I'm generalizing here, saying they, but many people
I feel you, yes.
saw me through this lens. And then they explained everything that happens in my life through that lens. Mm-hmm. And this is happening to me, but it's happening to so many people. And so something happens in your life, and it might be dramatic or it might be great, but then people only see that, and then they see you through this. So what happened to me is when I was 8, my father suicided. And from then, people explained everything that happens in my life through this lens. So now it's really easy. And I wouldn't say that it doesn't play a part in my life. Of course it does. Everything we do in life influences us and makes us who we are. So of course it does influence me, but it's not I'm going to change my life. Fuck it, I was 8. So it's not like, from now on, I'm going to go. And, obviously not. And this is something I'm really helping people with. And you don't need to have such a strong and sad story. But a lot of time we have something that happened in our life. And often we judge ourselves because of that. And then everything else is like stuck. From that, there is a before and after, and we get stuck in this story. And we kind of refer to this, and it becomes our identity. Well, my identity is not that my father suicided when I was 8. I had so many other things in my life, Mm-hmm. But lots of people see that through this lens. And it's also because this kind of story is obviously very strong, and it tends to put you in front of all your fears. And it's not only that, but it could be, for example, I have clients who have gone through trauma. No one's want to go through that, and it's scary. So it's difficult to then feel connected to these people, because it's something that we maybe not have come to terms with. And so we are rejecting this, not the person, but the story, but what it represents. So for example, what was happening to me a lot when I was a kid is, and when you're a kid, the next, when you're an adult, when people meet you, it's like, where are you from? What do you do? When you're a kid, is what do your father and your mom do, So it would come very early in the discussion. And so when I was telling my father was dead, the next question, and I kind of don't understand why, but everyone is like, how did he die? And I was like, I know you don't want to know that, and I know you're going to be very uncomfortable now. And you really don't want to ask that question. I mean, of course, I wasn't saying that, but I knew that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was them feeling super uncomfortable, and me too, because after a time, you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. So I changed the story, and I was saying he had an accident, which was making it so much easier for everyone, including me. So because they were not comfortable with that, I changed the story so that everyone would be comfortable. Mm-hmm. But it's not the truth. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's okay. It's somewhat kind of an accident, but it's not the truth. So I wasn't feeling really allowed to be me. I wasn't feeling like it's okay to be me. So this is a very big part, of course, of what I'm doing today. Mm-hmm. Allowing people to be themselves and to be okay being themselves.
Thank you
owning
so
their
much
stories.
for sharing. Yeah, absolutely.
Because as long as I call it, these t-shirts with slogan, like, I'm not perfect, but I'm unique. This kind of, t-shirts.
Yes.
But when we have a story like that, it's this kind of t-shirt with a slogan, but we wear it up like backwards. So in front, we see a beautiful t-shirt. Backwards, everyone sees the slogan, but we don't see it. But everyone else see that. Because we're defining our lives like at reverse. Like,
yes.
I don't want anyone to know that, because if they found out, I'm going to be rejected and so on. Mm-hmm. What we find, amazingly enough, is as soon as we start speaking and really owning it, then people respect us for that. And it's even more. Then we realize everyone is kind of silently hoping to be listened to, but dreading to be discovered. So
Mm-hmm.
they are staying with their weird each one.
I can absolutely relate to your story because, as you might know, I grew up as a half orphan as well. And
Mhm.
I can really resonate with so many experiences what you've had. And like you've said about owning your story, it's for many people, like for myself, it's kind of like peeling up the layers, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. You know, I just started when we met in Portugal, I just opened up so many things, and it can be done step by step and also very gently and with
Yeah.
full of compassion towards yourself. And before we just dived and started with our podcast, we were talking about, because when you don't own your story, when you don't own your power, and you get identified with any kind of experiences in your past, it doesn't have to be so traumatic like our stories, but it can be, you know, the neuroscience shows that, for example, whatever kind of traumatic experience or thought, violent thought, is pain for your body the same way when someone is punching you. So your
Mhm.
body does not, and your mind does not differentiate between real punch and just punching by words, even if you think them by yourself or someone else is telling you them. So, and we were starting to talk about the isolation and the loneliness coming with many parts of, you know, being stressed or not being on your own journey. Would you like to share with us more about that?
Well, you know, first I want to say that isolation doesn't come only with struggles.
Mm-hmm.
You can be super successful on your terms
And
and
mm-hmm.
be isolated because
Yeah.
everyone else around you is not on the same path.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that makes it even worse because then you have, and again, that's something, yeah, more and more. I began to, with working with resilience and stress. I mean, shifting from stress to resilience. And of course, I'm still doing that. And it's a kind of the framework of my, maybe we'll have time to talk about the framework, but it's at the center of what I'm doing. But more and more, I'm shifting to concentrating on isolation because it's really something that I see is at the core of
Mm-hmm.
everything. No one has ever came to me to say, oh, you know, my big problem in life is I'm isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it's always there, always. And it's something that makes the difference between someone getting better or someone just drowning and drowning and drowning and going down. And it's not only isolation from the others, but it's also isolation from yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, again, I can so resonate with that. Like really, I know it might sound ridiculous, but in Munich, you know, I was just climbing up the corporate high flyer, and you just get isolated with myself and with my environment.
Yeah.
Absolutely, two of them. So would you mind to share maybe the first things? Because for me, it was just such a slow and unconscious and very,
Yeah.
you know, a very light chain of habits. Would you like to share a few things, maybe three things, what someone could start to realize and check in with themselves, either ask some questions or see if this is actually happening for them, in order to realize, am I on the path to become isolated?
Yeah, well, actually, you're touching on something super important because there is oh, this is such a big topic. We could talk hours about that. There is, for a few reasons, we have the tendency not to see what's going wrong. And it's on the evolution point of view, it makes sense so that we can go forward and push through the pain. But pushing through the pain, it's actually the worst thing you can do. It's people sometimes mistake it for resilience, guys. It's not. It's total weakness because we can make it for some time, then we break, and we break. And then our society is very much very positive. You know, we have to make it happen and be strong, and so our society actually makes it super difficult for us first to realize there's something wrong, and then to express it. And this is making this is a huge why for the isolation we see.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, first, there is a difference. Like, okay, I was talking about my framework, for example. From my point of view, we are six times more intelligent than what we think.
Yes, I
Great
think
news,
yeah,
guys.
makes sense.
Great news, because when we think about intelligence, usually people think mind, intellectual, rational. That's just one, guys. So you have 5 others, wisdom that you have inside of you, and that if you listen, you can see when you disconnect.
Yes.
And
Awareness sensories, yes.
this is the physical dimension, the emotional, the relational, which is different. Emotional is how you relate to yourself, and relational is how you relate to others.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual, and if you feel like spiritual, wait a minute, I don't believe in chakras and rainbows, and you don't have to.
Not in unicorns.
It just means, what meaning do you have in life?
Yeah.
Whatever you are doing in your life, wherever you are, you need to feel that what you're doing is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you're going to feel isolated with your true self, like deep down, as we call it. So we have all these intelligences, and we can feel them and listen to them. Because the trick is, the intellectual self, it will easily trick us in thinking, I have to do that. Like, well, you were giving a very, very interesting example, because it's the example of many, many people. They have a life which is perfect on paper, because everyone wants to do that. Yeah, but do you? Have you asked yourself, is it what I want? Or is it what my parents want for me? Or what society want for me? Or, you know, I mean, I know when I was in college, for example, I was a good student, and I was good a bit everywhere. So I had a lot of options. And in France back then, when it was the case, it was super great to do a mathematics and scientific exam, like a baccalaureate. It's the first big exam before university.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was pushing me that way, except my mom. Thank you, mom. But I loved languages. I loved logic, but in languages, I was good in math, but it wasn't. I knew I was going to feel terrible if I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks to me for listening to myself, and my mom not pushing me, I denied that. But everyone else was pushing me that way. Why? Despite me be saying, well, you know, guys, I don't think I'm going to be happy studying science. But everyone was saying, yeah, but if you study that, then you can do whatever you want. Yeah, but I want to do what I want now. I want to be happy now, you know, not in 10 years, not in 40 years, not in 60 years when I take my retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that really we can ask ourselves. And then there is one thing that really drives me as well. And maybe you heard about that. It's a book, actually, she finally wrote a book. It's a nurse who was working with people dying, actually, at the end of their life. And she ended up writing a book because she was hearing again and again and again the same regrets. Mm-hmm. And there are 5 of them, like the top, something like the top 5 regrets, something like that.
After dying, yes.
And yes. And the first one is, I wish I had the courage, or I think that's it. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, mm-hmm. and not the life that others wanted for me. Mm-hmm. And I wish that everyone would do that. And so if we can touch and ask ourselves, if I was going to die today, would I be happy with the life I'm having now? You know, this kind of just noticing. And yeah. And guys, to do that, you have to be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready to say, oh, maybe not. And not to feel guilty. Because it's the next step. It's the next trap most people fall into. You are responsible for your life 100%, but you are not guilty for anything you are doing.
I think the self-responsibility is such a big one,
Yeah,
especially also when it comes to isolation. So I would, it's basically, it comes together, right? When you live a life true to yourself, does it mean that you want to be by yourself in the jungle in India and sit there and
exactly.
meditate? And that's fine. But when you're in the middle of the city and you are just kind of dying from the inside out. I mean, this is what many people, funny enough, when I'm here now in Munich, right? And everybody's just looking at me and say, you're so full of life. And it's like, what else would I be? What are you? Where are you at the moment? Like even the realization of the people to perceive me like that. And I said, listen, when you see this in me, this is already within you. And everybody's just looking like that. Because this is what you see in others is basically within you. But we might, like you said, we are not checking in with ourselves, and we are so seldomly really honest with ourselves. And when we get to the truth, we might be then, like you said, society teaches us this and that, and we are not even going there because it might be painful.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
truth might
And
be painful.
I mean, I'm going to be honest right now. I just said be kind to yourself. If you really had, like, if you had a trauma in your life, like I'm talking real trauma. Trauma is becoming a buzzword and it's being used in ways that are not, like trauma is trauma. It's not just being, but if you had a trauma, for example, you will need help. This is not something you can face safely alone.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes to do this work, yes, you need help. And that's why people like me and you and are doing what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We are there for that. Thank God.
And I have I hope everybody has someone who you can share even, and this is, probably Brené Brown, right? Shame.
Vulnerability, yeah.
Yes, and shame and guilt gets only power in you when you are not able to share it with anyone.
Yeah.
And I do it on a regular basis, seriously, even when I don't think like it's such a big deal, but I still share it. I think like this was really stupid, or this is what I might do differently now because I do know better now. But back then I was doing my best. And this is basically the personal growth and personal development, what I would really highly encourage to do for everybody. With
Yeah.
people, like you just said, with people who are either listening to you or are able to support you. And can you just share with us, you were talking about the framework. I would love to hear about the framework, what you just mentioned.
Well, a big part of it is what I just mentioned about the 6 intelligences, because I
Yes.
see ourselves as multidimensional. And that's how, so guys, full disclosure, she was asking me, so how would you present yourself? And I would like, in one word. That's
This
going to
is
be
not
difficult.
possible. So we ended up like 10 minutes, forward and back.
Because, for example, when I say what I'm doing, often people are, well, usually people are interested. Oh, yeah, super interesting. So you are a psychologist. And I'm like, no. And actually, the fact that you are asking this question, as you are asking this question, is making it difficult for me to answer, because my point of view is totally different. There is no mind and body and nothing in between. It's just the same thing working together. So I know people can see the video, but just for you, this is my last tool. And
Beautiful.
it's integrity. If I would love it if you could share on the page tensegrity and show show a link to that, because
I will.
it's basically the meaning that it's these intelligences, they are not just here and independently. They are a system and they work together. And if you touch one, all the others moves. So
Yes, thank
that's
you so much for sharing. That's amazing. Tell us more. Yeah, this is what so many people don't get. It's literally
yes.
when sitting is the new smoking. You are, however, continue.
Yeah. So that's the core. That is really the core of everything else I'm doing.
Yeah.
We are multidimensional, and we need to honor that and be aware that if we change one, all the others change. So it's not, oh, if I focus on my, like, I don't know, if I focus on my health now, like physical health, I won't have time to do blah, blah, blah. Yes, but it's going to react. It's going to impact all the other ones. You will feel better emotionally. It will help your relationship, etc., etc. So they are working together in this system. And we need to be aware of that, because sometimes we think that, oh, no, I can do this. I'm going to push through. And it's only impacting, for example, your physical health. Like a very basic example is someone working so much that they don't eat, they don't sleep, and they think, oh, I will eat and sleep later. Now my physical, I don't feel so well physically, I'm a bit tired, but it's okay. But no, it's not okay. It's impacting your emotions. It's impacting your relationships and so on. So every time you feel like you're suppressing just one of these, you're actually impacting all the system in ways you cannot imagine even. So this is at the core of what I'm doing. First, guys, we are multidimensional. And then these 6 beings, as I call these 6 sense of self, they are just the very core layers for what we do. So many times when people want to change their life, they want to change the situation, and they're trying to change what they do in order to do that. I'm okay with that, and I agree, but it requires a lot of willpower to do that. So we are talking about behavioral level. Well, if you go beyond that, if you change your belief, for example, beyond what you do, then it's going to be easier to change your behavior, because now it's accordingly to what you think, to what you believe. But then imagine if you change your identity even beyond that. So these beings, all these physical, emotional, relational, and so on self, imagine if you can change them so that you don't actually doing anything about the situation directly, but automatically changing who you are, the situation, what you are doing is changing. So from these beings, like physical and so on, there's a framework kind of branches into 6 doing in the professional, in the love life, social life, and so on. And it's impacting then, like imagine this in 6D, it doesn't even exist, but so it's branching out. And so this is the framework, and then there are 3 pillars. And it's kind of steps, but it's iterative. Once you've done the 3, then you go back and so on. And it's awareness. You need to be clear on what's happening. If I say often to my clients, well, if there is no problem, there is no solution. It's really simple. So unless we acknowledge what is going on, we are not going to be able to do anything about that. So first, yes, awareness. And then it's something that maybe from improv theater, they have this yes and.
Yes.
In improv theater, they have this rule that whatever anyone tells you, you never say no. You say yes. And then you say and, the magical word, meaning, and now I'm leading and I'm going wherever I want. So I don't know, maybe someone can tell you, oh, you see this elephant, and you might say yes, and actually there's a giraffe over there, and you go in total other direction, but you're in charge, because first you agreed, you said yes. So first awareness, yes, and then freedom, I call it, transformation. That's when you say and you open possibilities, new ways of doing, maybe new tools that maybe you didn't have. And often I guide my clients through that, so that through processes, because they always have the answers in them, but they are just not connecting to them. So I'm doing the bridge. I'm leading them to them, and they find for themselves the answers. So yes, awareness, and the freedom, the transformation. And the 3rd pillar that's so important is connection. And it's connection to yourself and connection to others.
Absolutely.
And these 3 pillars, first, we do it. I mean, I'm guiding my clients through these three usually in order in the first thing, but then it becomes the three pillars of your life. And each time you feel like isolated, for example, well, okay, I miss connection. Where am I not connecting my life to myself, to others? If you're feeling stuck, probably you have freedom and connection, but not awareness. Sorry, no. If you're feeling stuck, probably you have awareness of what's going on and you have connection, but you don't know how to get there, so you feel stuck. So you go back to freedom. What can I do? If you feel denial, well, this one is tricky because denial, the rule of thumb is you don't see it. But it means that you have freedom, you know the tools, you have connection, you know where you want to go. But you are lack awareness, you lack clarity. And so you might be in denial, which happens to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So these three, they help to know a bit what's missing in you can work to get back and get present to your life.
Thank you so much for sharing. And those three pillars, you can basically just start and apply straight away and see how it feels, where you're going to end up, and see what you're going to discover by yourself.
Exactly.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, because it's really great to remember. It's also, you can apply it. So it's not really kind of like something what is out of space and you have to read a whole book like The Middle Path from Dalai Lama or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just basically something what you can apply straight away.
It's really, I mean, that is something. Thank you for saying that, because it's something that's really dear for me, that it shouldn't be, it can be complicated. And I mean, I've studied a lot to do all of this, and I studied different things and different traditions. But in the end, if my clients are not able to go forward without me, I didn't help them. I just made them dependent on me.
Yeah.
So it should be simple. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it should be simple. And you should always have the tools to go forwards by yourself. If not, I didn't do my job well. Really.
Yeah, and it's about, well, like you just said, it's about to get started. You know what I mean? It's about to take the first baby step, and then you will see. But it's easy to apply, and whatever will come out then, while you start to see, to feel, and to hear yourself.
Yeah.
Just what is within yourself and what your body is telling you, then you're gonna maybe unfold things which might take longer, more work. And by the way, just to make this clear, it's like we are all on the same journey. Nobody, and I've met so many people out there. We are all on the same journey. Sometimes things are just coming up out of nowhere. And you just figure like, where is this coming from? Like, what the heck? Why is this even in me? Do you know the moments? It's like, I thought I'm done with that, and now this is coming. Like, hey, I don't get it. It's like a constant process, and it's just all about to trust the process. Like, it's just a path. Wherever you are, you can go through it, and then you will come out on the other side stronger and more resilient.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying, these three pillars: awareness, freedom, connection. It's not steps. Of course, the first time you do it, you have to do one by one, and it's a step. But then it's a spiral. I'm always in that. I'm always constantly checking and going. And it's now as I'm saying that, it could feel like, oh my God, it's so much work. Like you're constantly like working on yourself. No, it's becoming who I am. I just auto self-correcting all the time. But I have this signpost in a way to know what's missing or what I need to check, being only that, so I cannot stay again in denial or stuck, or I know what's happening and I know how to get out of it. But yeah, it's a process. And it's funny because often in the beginning, when we begin this journey of self-discovery, it feels daunting. And often my clients, one thing they say is, but is it never, when is it going to be over? Like, because as you say, often you feel like, oh no, this, I've done it. It's okay now. And I'm good with that. And then happens something and you're like, nah, I thought I was done with that, and it's coming back.
Yeah.
So sometimes they feel like a little bit desperated, like, when is it gonna end? And after a while, the magic is, it's never gonna end. And it's great because you will always be in that path of self-discovering, higher and higher, or deeper and deeper as you want. I don't want to put any any levels on that, but
yeah, without pain there is no happiness. It's basically you have to feel and go through. This is how it's a flow. This is how life goes. It's for every single one of us, and I know Instagram etc shows that it's for everybody just rainbows every single day on a daily basis, but it's definitely not. And I would really love to encourage everyone, each and every single one of us, myself included. And you just said about that, when we have those, even the tool now, right, and we can get into ourselves, that this is kind of like work. But what I would like to ask you is that we wake up most of the time with certain thoughts, right? Something starts to play, and we play movies constantly. Our thoughts are taking the most energy out of ourselves throughout the whole day. We take over 35 decisions per day. So would you say that someone who is maybe finding themselves constantly in either getting lost or the FOMO, fear of missing out, or whatever, like, I mean, we create constantly something in order to have some pain and get some problems and label everything. We had this discussion up in the beginning as well. So just when someone is finding constant thought patterns within themselves, not surfing them, would you suggest someone to apply those 3 pillars and create a movie? Because this is what it is.
Yeah, one thing I love to do with my clients is storytelling. Because as you say, so in this framework of 6 beings, the one we are using most usually, I mean consciously, is the intellectual self. And this one is a bit tricky because it is the one that thinks he's the king. And every 5 others has to listen because he knows. Or let's say it knows. I don't want to stigmatize men. So the intellectual self, it thinks, I know, guys, listen to me. I know what I'm doing. No, you don't need to eat. I know, physical self, you're hungry and you're tired, but you don't need that. You can go again, and so on. So it really helps trying to see the story that we are telling ourselves. And we always find, so if I come back to the 3 pillars, we can find it in any isolation or stuck or denial, and depending we might need, but often in this case, we need more awareness on seeing the story for what it is. A story, it's just a story. And often I use this image of glasses. I'm sure everyone has, I'm not wearing glasses, but I have sunglasses sometimes. And at least one day in our life, all of us have been looking for our glasses when it was on our nose.
Yes.
We all have this experience, right?
Yeah, great example.
And why? Because after a while, we get used to seeing through the glasses, and we don't consciously think, oh, I'm seeing like this because my sunglasses on, and so on and so forth. It's exactly the same for our thoughts. We have patterns of thoughts. We have belief. We have identity. We all listen to people telling, oh, I'm someone who, oh no, that's not me. Oh, I'm doing that. So we have a sense of our identity, and we have beliefs on top of that. And we see the world through these glasses. So first step is becoming aware of the glasses, seeing that what we see, the way people react to us, the way life reacts to us in a way, is depending on this filter, on what we think, on who we think we are as well. And then if one day we can play to quit the glasses, to take them off and try others, wow, that's becoming to be interesting. So that's something I love to do with my clients, storytelling, and seeing the story we tell ourselves.
Yeah, So
And
powerful.
actually, the example of my father is interesting in terms of that. And it's interesting because he's far from being the only one actually in that situation. But see, one of the problem with what we call mental health, and by now you will all understand that I don't agree with this mental health term, because for me there is no physical health or mental health, there is health. But that's another another discussion. But the problem with mental health is we have ideas on how it is. So people who suicide, they are depressed, and depressed people, they cry all the time, and they are super sad, and they are lonely, and they dress in black. And well, my father was, this guy who always cracked jokes at parties and everyone is laughing and the life of the party. Well, that was my father.
Mm-hmm.
On the paper, and for everyone, everything was great, fine. Yeah, he had a few difficulties at work, but nothing, nothing big. I know this from way after, actually. So I never saw him worried, and then one day he suicided, and no one understand why. He didn't leave a letter, so everyone was shocked. And it's far from being the only one, because most people, they have this story outside, and then inside is a way different story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that in between the story he was telling himself, there were even levels of that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we begin to see all these levels and different stories, and we can see through that and get to who we really are, wow, that's really a relief. Because it's so difficult. Most people are trying to, and I've been doing that, and in some ways we are all still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Dalai Lama is not.
He is doing it as well, and he commits that as well. By the way, he's not saying that it's just
Yeah,
what you are telling yourself. The idea about the Dalai Lama. I mean, this is like a whole figure,
yeah.
and
So
everyone and everyone are doing it. Yes.
we are always trying to be someone.
Yeah.
But what a relief the day we stop trying to be anyone else. There's this
When
thing
you
of
are you, and you just said when you live the life true to yourself,
yeah,
you are going to be in alignment with yourself, and this actually allows you to then tell yourself the story, what allows you to live in the present moment, and you are not jumping all the time between all the past, the future, etc. experiences, and you are kind of really who you want to be, because
exactly.
it is about who you want to be and who you are.
And even beyond that, I would drop the who you want to be. I mean, and it's important to have an intention and to know where you
You
want to
go.
go. But sometimes that's when in the beginning of this interview, I talked about fitting in boxes. And most people, they think, oh yeah, fitting in boxes means, society has a box and trying to push it into. But I've seen people trying to fit in boxes they build themselves.
Yes, I
So
see
they
the
have
point.
this idea, of I want to be that, and I'm going to make happen.
Yes.
And it's not working. And instead of saying, well, maybe it's just
Not.
not really who I want to be, they just continue because, sometimes, well, lots of good, bad reasons. But, it's a lot of people are talking about being yourself, just be yourself. But I would say just stop trying to be someone else. And you are already yourself, actually. Whatever you do now is yourself. You are already being yourself. So it's not something you have to do. It's actually something you have to stop.
And
Stop
just,
trying
yes.
to be someone else.
And we are judging yourself, then we think what other things about us, and this thought creates most of the time the idea about who I am supposed to be, in order to let the people see what I want them to see.
Exactly.
And what your path and your suggestion and the sentence of the 3 pillars allows you to always get out of this. And everybody, each and every single one of us got this because of our parenting, because the society,
Yeah.
because of media. It's like something what we got into us, and it's actually nothing bad. It's just about creating the awareness and choosing in which directions you want to go. And like you said, you can have the direction, you can just go like that. I did it as well, and someone told me like, are you crazy? Are you just throwing away your life, your career, whatever? And I was like, no, I just follow my heart. And everybody like, are you crazy? No, I think this is the good thing for me. And again, it can be so, and most of the time when it's super scary, it might be the step you are supposed to take. It sounds counterproductive because it might be rough and tough, but for most of us it is really the one step, maybe the baby step, and we can always go in the direction we want to be. Claire, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. Is there anything on your heart what you would like to share at the end of the interview, something what you think is very important and close to your heart, and just something what everybody might be when you benefit from it?
Yeah, there is really one thing, and it's relating to isolation. So we've covered a lot of things, and the framework of the beings and the 3 pillars, but there is something that if everyone would hear that and feel it, not only understand it from the head, but really feel it into your emotion, into yourself, into deeply, you are not alone. Whatever you're going through right now, there is at least one person, and believe me, probably much more than one, who is going through more or less the same thing and who can understand you. I know that it's super difficult, that when we have difficult stories, like I have, like other people have, and mine is not the most terrible one, we feel like no one can understand us because we are different, because we make people uncomfortable, and so on and so forth. The truth is, maybe you just didn't meet the right people yet. Maybe you didn't meet people who can safely understand you and listen to you. But you are not alone. You are never alone. You know, there is a great saying by Albert Einstein. I mean, there is a lot of great saying by Albert Einstein, but there is one I really love a lot, and I don't know it by heart, but it goes something like, sometimes people feel stupid because they are fish and they are being judged by the way they climb a tree. And of course, if you're a fish, you're not going to climb a tree really well, but it doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you're a fish. So a lot of people feel broken or feel weird, or just because they didn't find their tribe. And they feel alone, and they feel like no one is going to understand them. And so they just stay isolated and not talk. And this is adding to their problem. And that's why today I'm really going to in the direction of addressing isolation more than anything else. And my next project is now building a community to support all these people, so that no one ever can feel like they are alone, they are different, and they cannot ask for help. Because believe me, you are not alone, really. And you matter. People are seen so much more than they think. They think, well, when they struggle, often they think they are alone and no one sees them. And, you know, they have these thoughts, which there's one thought that goes with suicidal ideation, which is making me mad. They think, well, you know, it wouldn't make a difference if I would disappear today. No one would notice. And believe me, this is never true. It's unbelievable. We didn't get into that, but my brother also suicided not so long ago, like a year ago. I was really touched to see the number of people who showed up at the ceremony. And I'm not sure that he would have expected that many people to show up. And we received so many messages of people being really touched. And I'm sure he didn't expect that. And I know that many people who struggle, they feel like, oh, you know, no one sees me. And no, they're just in their own shit. It doesn't mean they don't see you. It means they see themselves and they're getting drawn. But you matter. You are not alone. And yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so sorry to hear it.
Everyone matters.
Yes. Where can people find you? where is the easiest way to talk and find you? I'm going to share, of course, like I mentioned, all the links below the podcast. It will be your homepage, podcast, etc. All the links will be shared. Also the LinkedIn page. So where would you like that people just connect with you straight away or send you a DM?
So, well, the main place to see who I am a little bit more and see my work. And yeah, actually, yeah, I'm having a podcast as well. And guys, I interviewed Sylvia. So if you go back in the archives, you can find this interview as well.
Yes, and she made me talk about everything. It was
Everything, like all new story, one-on-one.
Yes, it was like, oh my God. And I just shared with you my heart, like really.
So yeah, the best place for that is on my website.
I'm gonna share the link from your website. Yes.
Yeah, integralailab.com. Then I have a Facebook page, but really the best way to connect with me is through the website. Mm-hmm. And yeah, actually, I will share. I have a page like describing the 3 pillars. I will make sure you get the link to that if people are, because I know for myself it helps me to have images, and, mm-hmm. and graphics. So
and just
I will make that available.
Thank you so much for offering. Yes, I'm gonna share it with everybody.
And yeah, and that's it. And to contact me, there is a link on the there is a contact page on the site, mm-hmm. and this is the best way to contact me by mail.
Reach out to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you so much for sharing with all of us your whole heart as well, for encouraging each and every single one to live a life true to themselves, own their story, and just stop being alone with anything on this earth.
Oh, well, thank you so much for inviting me and, doing what you do and spreading these messages. This needs to be heard. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to be here with you today.
Same here. Thank you so much.